All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us for this week's Get in the G Suite Groove webinar. Today's all about calendar. So we've hit you with some new applications and tasks and Keep. We've talked about chat and Meet. We're using Meet to do these webinars now. Now we're going to come back to one of the core applications or tools within G Suite, and that's calendar. So thanks for joining us again this week for this series of webinars. We're excited to talk about calendar and then hopefully get some questions from you all about calendar. So with that in mind, let's talk about the housekeeping. If you joined us last week, you did an awesome job. All we ask throughout this webinar is, because we're recording it, that you just mute yourself throughout the webinar. And then if you have questions, you just use chat. It's near the upper kind of right-hand corner of your screen, the Meet screen, and you're just going to click this little icon here, type your question in. I'll be answering those questions in about 20 minutes. So please ask a question, even if it's not related to calendar, throw it in there. We'll try to answer as many as we can because we're going to save some time at the end. There's two other things I wanted to mention about Meet because we covered it a few weeks ago and we're using it today. The first is, Meet in its growth over the last couple of months, it's actually grown 25 times bigger as far as daily usage from January to now April. And you all are part of that. That's huge. That's incredible growth. And that's something I think hopefully your teams are seeing as well. You're able to utilize this tool to actually start having meetings like this, webinars internally like this, and then it's exciting. The second thing is, and this is maybe less exciting, but good to know, historically it was called Hangouts Meet. It's now just called Google Meet, which I think is a little easier. So there's no more Hangouts in it. And then as a side note, Hangouts Chat is now just Google Chat. So Meet and Chat, no more Hangouts within those tools. So that's just good to know stuff. Let's pop into today's kind of goals. This is going to look fairly short. We continue on this path of, in this new remote working environment, how can we best use G Suite tools to facilitate collaboration, to make feeling like working from home more like working from work, and to sharpen our skills. And that's what today's all about, right? We're talking about a core G Suite tool, calendar, that you all probably use on a daily basis. What can you do today to be more effective in that tool? So that's our goal, or our goals today. And rather than talking more in slides, you all know I love a live demo. I'm going to try not to glance out the windows again. It's snowing in Minnesota right now, so that's kind of a bummer. You all know I love a live demo. I'm going to hop right into my calendar. We're going to dive into it. So this is not about covering the basics of Google Calendar. I think most of you are probably comfortable with that. Let's talk about some of those, I think, key pieces that can make you really effective in Google Calendar. And the first thing I always love to do with maybe more experienced calendar users is go into settings. So all of your G Suite tools has a settings gear, and that gear for calendar lives right here. So any G Suite tool that you're in, look for the gear, click on that gear. In this case, we're in calendar. We'll click on the gear and hop into the settings. I think most folks, if they ever go into settings, it's the first day they're in it, and then they never look at it again. So this is a good chance to revisit it. Now, there are a ton of settings in here, and I'd love to cover all of them, but you all would get quickly bored, and that's not the idea today. So let's talk about a few key settings. The first one is something that's just an efficiency hint that I think a lot of folks pass over. And if you scroll down a little bit on your settings screen, or you watch my screen here, it's under event settings. It's right here, default duration. When you're creating meetings, what do you want that default duration to be? Most of my meetings are actually 30 minutes. And so out of the box, it says 60 minutes. You can go in here, change it to 30. You can, each individual calendar event, you can change the timing, right? You're not locked into 30 minutes. This just means instead of going to change that end time on every single event I create, it's already set for 30 minutes. So I'm just choosing the start time, inviting guests, adding my Meet link, and going from there. So that's a simple one, but I think that saves me maybe 10 seconds a day, which adds up, right? That's a minute a week that I can then try to do dishes or laundry or something like that. On this same screen, there's 3 other settings at the very bottom. I don't know why at the bottom, that I really like. And these 3, I think, really apply to today's world. The first one here is working hours. It's I think a new feature that was highlighted, because it was highlighted for me probably a couple months ago in a different era, and it just allows you to set framework around your daily working hours. People can still invite you outside of these hours, but you will just give them a warning saying, hey, Nick normally doesn't work at 5:30 or 7. I think in today's environment where most of us are probably working at night or are working earlier or later, this allows you to kind of put constraints around that. And for me, maybe on Tuesdays, I know my wife has an all-team meeting for her team from 8 to 9 a.m. So I can't start until 9 a.m. because I need to balance that with her because we have 2 kids that we got to take care of. So I can put that in here. So if someone tries to invite me at 8, it's just going to warn them and say, this is outside of Nick's working hours. So I think that's a great feature. The one right below that, you might need to talk to your G Suite admins if it's not lit up already. It allows you to set your main work location. Most of us are probably working remotely, right? So you can see I've already set that. I've set it as we're working remote right now, but I think in the future, maybe there's a better benefit here. If I go back into this, all of your buildings, if they've been entered in the admin console, will be here. And so what you can do in this future state where we're back in the office, maybe, is you can say, I normally work in Scranton on the 2nd floor. Now, Calendar is going to know that that's my work location. And when I'm looking for conference rooms in the future, it's going to say, okay, let's first look for any Scranton 2nd floor rooms and then any Scranton rooms, rather than showing you the full list of 80 rooms, 79 of whom are not in a building near you. So right now we're working remote, so you can set that location. I think most folks probably know that already, but then when you're back in the office, you can let Calendar do some of the work for you. And the last one down here, it seems so minor. It's keyboard shortcuts. And I am a huge proponent of all of G Suite tools, keyboard shortcuts, but Calendar especially. I've already enabled them. And so what you can do is you just, if you're on the right screen, you can do this kind of question mark thing to see all of them. And there's a lot here. So I don't want to overwhelm you with this huge list of keyboard shortcuts. So let me just show you a couple that I really like that I think kind of make my day quicker as I'm navigating Calendar. And hopefully you'll see that that could make your day a little quicker too. So settings in Calendar save automatically. So just click this kind of big left arrow here. You're going to hop back into your calendar. Let's say you were trying to schedule an appointment for a vendor or a client or a specific person in your company that only has 2 or 3 days available. So I always use this little mini calendar on the left here, and I know let's go further out. That's probably too aggressive. Let's say it's August. We're back in the office. I say it's the 24th through the 26th. I can click and drag, highlight those dates. It's going to then show me those dates here. I can then book my meeting, invite all my other folks that I need to, knowing that it was within those parameters of dates that could work for them. And then I can just click T on my keyboard. It's going to take me back to today. We can see that today is April 14th. I like a week view. Click W, it takes me back in my week view. So it's that easy to get back to my normal view without fumbling through, several clicks to get it, just using those keyboard shortcuts. C allows me to create a new event. And if I prefer day view, which I always do if I'm looking at multiple calendars, just click D. It'll take me right into that day view. So keyboard shortcuts, another one that, it seems minor, but it's something that I use day in and day out. I don't really think about anymore, but it makes my, I think, calendar life a little bit easier. I'll go back to that week view. So activate them. There's a ton in there. I just use a few, but those few really help me throughout the day. So all of those settings right on that main settings screen. There's one other spot I like to highlight in settings. Again, I'd encourage you to explore all of them. If you have time, I know most folks don't have extra time right now, but if you have time, check those out. I'm going to go back into the gear, click on settings. The other spot to check is on the left side when you're in this kind of settings screen here. Look for your name on the left side. That's going to be your main calendar. When you click on that, there's a lot in here too, worth checking out. But the one I highlight is this share with specific people. I work pretty closely with a colleague who happens to be out on maternity leave right now. But when she's in the office and we're kind of juggling multiple projects, it's great that I give her the ability. This is my demo account, so I've given it to Dwight. I've given Dwight the ability in this case to make changes to events on my calendar. Do I need to be 20 minutes late because daycare drop off got messed up? Do I need someone to just quickly change a schedule event because I got pulled into a last minute training? I give that permission to Dwight. In real life, it's not Dwight, but you get the idea here. So then someone else can just quickly make changes to events on my calendar without me having to go into my calendar and make those changes. It's a way of delegating that calendar and allowing kind of that collaboration. Now you can see here, I can also give people, let's give Andy Bernard, just the ability to see all event details. Because by default, most folks, and you can check that up here, are probably just seeing you're free busy. But maybe you work with some project folks or you're on a team that's really tight knit and you want them to see that whole calendar. So all the event details. They can't make changes, but they can see those event details. All of that just kind of feeds into that collaboration that I think we need right now, right? This is a different environment, so we kind of need that collaboration. So I encourage you to do that if that makes sense for your workflows. Again, everything saves automatically, so I'm going to hop back out here. Okay, so delegating access, one kind of great way to encourage that collaboration. Another way to encourage it, especially in, again, this environment, is to maybe create a team calendar. So one thing I've seen on our team is in this effort, which is great to foster collaboration when we're all at our houses, we've been doing team happy hours, team lunches, all these virtual events. And I love them and I join them when I can, but it tends to clog up my main calendar. And so what I could encourage you to do, if that's your team as well, you could create a calendar that folks could see on your team. So then they can see those team lunches, team happy hours, but it's not going to interfere with their main calendar where they have client work or their actual job work stuff, which doesn't make sense. But let me walk you through that process. I think you get the gist. So on the left side, when you're on your calendar here, there's this plus next to other calendars. Click that and just click create new calendar. We could just call it temporarily. This is our, work from home team events. WFH is work from home team events calendar, right? So then I could just pop in a description here. This is for our team. Click create. Now we've created this new calendar. Now I just need to get my teammates in it. So it's a weird nuance. This is why I want to walk through it. You click the back arrow here, and then you're going to see work from home team events is now there. Great. I'm going to click the menu, click settings and sharing. So it's going to take me into this calendar's settings. And now by default, I can see, okay, make available for all of Agosto. That's great. Click the get shareable link, email this link, send this through chat to people, and they can get into this calendar and then see all the events. I can even add a couple other folks who I need to actually make changes to events on this calendar. So Dwight is my other kind of go-to collaborative guy who needs to add events onto our work from home calendar. It's that easy to create that calendar that kind of separates these kind of work from home events, which are incredibly important, from the actual day-to-day job, which is on your normal calendar. It's a suggestion. And of course, at the end of it, you could keep it, rename it to team calendar, or you could certainly get rid of it at the bottom here, right? You've created this calendar, you could delete this later on. So creating calendars like that is always a good idea, especially in an environment like this. Okay, so now you kind of set up for success. We've talked about a few key settings, a couple other little things. Now, my biggest other hint for everyone to manage their day, manage their calendar effectively is RSVP effectively. So when I'm talking about RSVPing, I'm talking about in your calendar. If you're double booked, how do you RSVP to that? You probably just say no. Or if you're back to back to back, how do you RSVP to that? You probably just say, yeah, I'll be there. In the reality, you're going to be 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late because the other meeting might run long. So you can add all that context in your RSVP right here from calendar. So I got a couple events that I haven't said yes to. This one's a good one here, HR discussion. I'm going to click into it. And at the bottom here, going, yes, no, maybe, I'm going to click the drop-down arrow here. I'm going to say, you know what, this is butting into a different meeting, so I'm going to propose a new time. It's going to open this window here. It's going to overlay all my other colleagues or folks who are invited to that meeting. And I can see if I just move it to 10 a.m., it should work for everyone. So that's perfect. So now I'm going to send that proposal to Nicholas Executive, the creator of this event, the organizer of this event. I can add an optional message, which I've encouraged, but for time's sake, I won't. And then he can either accept that change or deny it. And if he denies it, doesn't work for his team for whatever reason, great. That's okay. I'll just not attend that meeting. But now I've given him context and in my notes, maybe a reason why I can't attend at that time. And you can probably hear my kids are awake now too. I apologize for that. One other thing is over here on this one is adding a note. So this one, I'm not back to back, but we'll just pretend I am. I'll click the drop down here. I want to go to this, but I want to add a note. So I'm going to, instead of propose a new time, I'm going to add a note. I'm just going to say I'm going to be 5 minutes late. And I'll say, yes, I am going. So now my event organizer, in this case, Nicholas Executive, will get that email with my RSVP, also with a note. And now anyone else, this is only me and him, but anyone else who's going to that meeting can see on this event screen here, hey, Nick's going to be 5 minutes late because I've added that context in. So I think in this world, we're no longer in the same office. We're not in the same room. I'm not a cube over from my colleagues. Adding some context into these RSVPs can make a huge difference and hopefully can make your life a little easier and your meeting organizers' lives a little easier. The last thing I'll say about this is invariably when you're in meetings, you need to email the people in the meetings. And I can't tell you how many times people have said, okay, so we got Nick and Sarah and PJ and Mark, who else is in this meeting? Don't worry about that. You can always email from any of your meetings on your calendar. So I click on this one here. I can click on this email guests right here. And from from calendar, I can actually email everyone in this meeting. I can even say, okay, maybe everyone who said yes, but not awaiting response, or if there's no's. So I'll skip everyone who didn't go to the meeting. This one's a bad example because it's only Nicholas Executive, but you get the idea. So you can, without leaving calendar, email the guests of that calendar without trying to like sort through the meet list or kind of figure out who was in the meeting notes for who attended. Just use this. Just use your calendar as that facilitator to send those emails. And before I open up for questions, this time just flew by. My last two big hints, you all know I love the way G Suite tools work together. And so my last two big hints are around out of office. And so when you're out of the office, a best practice, let's say I go to next week, is to mark yourself out of office. It's as simple as just clicking this button right here, out of office. And so that indicates to everyone else that you are now out of the office for that day. You can do it for a time period as well. Two things. One, by default, it's going to automatically decline events. You can uncheck that if you want to manually say no to those events. Otherwise, it's just going to automatically decline those events. It'll warn you. So I'll say yes. Okay. And then if I go back to this week, I want to set a meeting with someone. How does it look when they've said they're going to be out of the office? Well, I know my friend Nick Assistant is. So on the left side here, I'm going to use this Meet With feature. Look for Nick Assistant. I want to create a meeting with just me and him. So I'm going to type his name in. There we go. I can now see, oh, he's on PTO these 3 days. So that visual indicator is right there for me in calendar. And so again, we're not in the same cube. I can't see if someone's out of the office for today, taking a mental health day or trying to, run a school in their home for 2 days in a row. So if you're marking yourself out of the office in your calendar, that's going to let your colleagues know. And they can see it when they're trying to book events with you. So this Meet With feature, while I have it, is great. If you're setting up meetings for just two folks, it works seamless, right? I type in his name. I know that on Friday at, what time is that, 1 o'clock, I can click on that, create that meeting. It's Nick and Nick. That's weird. Add my conferencing in. click save, click send, and it's just that easy to create that meeting while inviting a colleague, knowing that he'll be available during that time. Now, the interplay of that is I can go to Hangouts chat and I could look up Nick. I called it Hangouts chat. It's just chat. I could look up Nick. If I try to send him a message in chat, look at that. That's going to tell me he's out of the office, but he's back on Friday. So I'm not going to send him a message because he's out of the office. Okay, well then fine. I'll go to email. I'll compose an email to Nick. It's going to warn me here too. So that out of office in calendar is going to tell all your other G Suite systems that, hey, you're out of the office. And it's going to warn all folks if they're trying to reach you through any of these G Suite tools that you're out of the office. So you might be slow to respond. You can obviously still set up the vacation responder in Gmail, but this seamless integration is just another one of those examples of why I love G Suite. The tools work really well together. Okay, so as we close in on today's end of webinar, before I open it up for questions, let's hop back into slides. Keep checking your email. Everyone who joined today, thank you. Tell your colleagues, get them the recordings of these webinars. I'll send that link through chat right now, so y'all have it. It's agosto.com/webinar. I'm also going to send a link through chat right now for a form. It's just a simple form. We're just looking for any feedback on these, this kind of webinar, not system, I guess this webinar run that we've been doing, questions that you might have for us about this, or suggestions. What topics do you want to see? How should we format this webinar to make it work for your team? So if you have a couple minutes, I'll encourage you to let us know in that form what you think. Otherwise, I'll open it up for questions. I have a few in chat right now. Throw your questions in the chat. And I'll kind of walk through these questions. And if you want to drop, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, especially in this time when I think everyone is working a little bit harder. To spend 30 minutes with us is a huge deal. So thank you. All right, so I think the first question that came in, why do my default settings for meetings don't have 45 minutes like yours? Well, if I go back to calendar, I think it's set up to be 60 minutes for most folks, but that might be an admin setting. So back in calendar settings, you can control that though. So once you're in settings like this, right here, default duration, you can set that. So again, if I set it for 60 minutes, that's just the default. I can still control the length of that. It's just the majority of my meetings might be 60 minutes. So I don't want to be messing with the end time every time. It could be that you've checked speedy meetings. That might make a difference. Yeah. So if you check speedy meetings, it does change that a little bit. And frankly, speedy meetings to me, the only thing I know about it is right here. It just ends 30-minute meetings 5 minutes early, and like a 60-minute meeting 10 minutes early. So if you're seeing different durations, it's probably just that. That's a good question. Can I share my calendar with someone outside my organization? Yeah, you absolutely can. So when you're in the settings here, go to your name. And you absolutely can. I actually did. So this is my real account, nick.bathke@agosto.com. It's on a different domain because I'm on my demo domain right now. So you can share as long as your admin has that set up for you. Yeah. So thank you. Someone else input that as well. So this is an admin setting. So your admin needs to have that allowed. But if they do allow that, you should be able to share it with folks externally. And this is a big thing, right? This is a security thing, right? So just be aware of who you're sharing your calendar with. I think most people know that. The next question wasn't a question. It said my kids like that function. They probably didn't like that function. They were probably upset about snack or something else. Does calendar log the emails that were sent to guests from the calendar invite? That's a great question. I don't have an answer for you, but we can test that really quickly here. So let's click this one here. So I'm going to send an email from here. I'll click this here. We'll just say test. Oh, I can send a copy to myself too. So then if I go to Gmail, I click send. I should have known. Yeah, it does, right? Because HR discussion test. It does log it in Gmail as a sent copy as well. So it looks like I sent a copy to myself, which I should receive right there, but it also shows up in sent. So that's good news. It should log it in your sent mail as well. That's a great question. All right, everyone. I don't see any other questions popping into chat right now. So I'll end the recording. I'll stick around for a couple minutes though. If you want to throw things into the chat, please. I'll stick around, like I said, until the top of the hour, actually. So a few minutes to answer any other questions. Otherwise, again, thanks for joining. We love to see so many people come to these webinars. We're going to keep doing them. So keep paying attention to your emails and letting your colleagues know too if they want to watch recordings of these. Thanks, everyone.